Welcome back to another episode of the Wild Wisdom Podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Finnig, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. I'm super excited for today's guest. She's a fellow yoga therapist, and I've followed her work for quite a few years. And today she's going to share about how yoga can help with fear, anxiety, and more. Beth Spindler is an author and certified yoga therapist. She's taught for over 4 decades all over the world. And her new book, Yoga Therapy for Fear, Treating Anxiety, Depression, and Rage with the Vagus Nerve and Other Techniques, has been a #1 seller on Amazon. It's also a training manual and several teacher training programs. She is trained in all branches of the Krishnamacharya lineage, as well as Sri Vidya Tantra, Kundalini, Anusara, Phoenix Rising, and in modern trauma counseling, neuroscience, biomechanics, and also has trained hundreds of yoga teachers. Her goal is to make yoga accessible to every body and mind in every situation. Her book is designed as a guide to help readers uncover fearlessness through yoga's methods and disciplines. It offers a medically proven approach to help students and clients uncover their own radiance that is hidden by fear and anxiety. And of course, we'll link to her book so you can purchase on Amazon in the show notes. So yoga offers a readily accessible system for courageous living. And Beth's book explains how to use simple and quick yoga therapy methods for accessing the vagus nerve, resulting in instant relief from symptoms of fear, including depression, anxiety, and rage. It offers asana, pranayama, and dhyana exercises to help eliminate that worry chatter of the mind, directly affecting the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fearful thoughts. Addressing many components of fear, the book explains when fear is useful and when it's not, and teaches how to reprogram responses to uncertain circumstances so they can be dealt with in a healthy way. For all of you who are driving right now or taking me along on your work or cooking dinner, don't worry because there will be links to everything we discussed today at alyssafinnig.com/podcast. And before I dive in, this episode is sponsored by Embark Yoga and Holistic Health, an urban sanctuary in the heart of Indianapolis, offering yoga classes, massage therapy, and holistic practices rooted in connecting the innate wisdom of the body with the mind to help you find true healing. Through dynamic movement, deep relaxation, natural remedies, and holistic self-care, Embark's team of wellness professionals can help you remain healthy as you age, stay sane while managing stress, and feel good every day of your life. Go to embarkyoga.com to learn more. And I won't make you wait any longer. Let's go ahead and dive into today's topic with Beth. Thank you so much, Beth, for being on the show. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Good. And our listeners always find the stories of our journeys fascinating because a lot of times they can relate. So would you share a bit about your journey, what led you to discover holistic practices and lead you where you are today?
Sure. When I suppose it would have started when I was about 9 or 10 years old. My mom was a huge fan of Rodale publications, and so we were always, the family would try to eat healthy, and sometimes we'd succeed. I was I grew up in the days of casseroles that there was mushroom soup and sour cream and basically everything. So it was, we were dabbling. And then at 10, I made the decision to become vegetarian, and it's a phase that's lasted the least until now. But it was a little startling. I grew up in middle of the U.S., right in Springfield, Missouri, and my dad was a minister, and it was kind of unheard of at that time too. And I wanted to learn more about everything health-wise, because I'd had some health conditions myself, and I was looking even then, 10, 11, 12, that age. I had issues of depression and anxiety, and found that a lot of the things that I was finding out about what I was putting into my body was helpful. But I also discovered yoga at that time. And my older sister and I decided to go. I've been kind of getting books out of the library, yeah, weird, the weird yoga stuff. I thought it was just really wonderful. And as a rather non-athletic little girl, I was a round little girl that was a little more bookish and not so much the athletic stuff. Yoga was accessible to me, and it was very it also felt cool. It felt like I was doing something very cool. And my sister and I went to a community building, and uh, how how a Shivananda yoga teacher got there, I have no idea, but I can remember the class and doing something stretchy and then lying down on my back for a while and then doing something else. And, and it was, I can remember those classes, and I was hooked and continued to do that. Somebody reminded me not too long ago that I was teaching yoga in church youth groups. I didn't remember that I was doing that. They'd say, "Oh no, you'd come in and you'd teach us poses," and at that point it was just poses. And to me, all that registered. The books showed all of the funky cleansing practices and all that kind of thing. And I didn't dabble in things like neti pots and all until much later. But it all seemed very exotic and wonderful when I was growing up in the Midwest. My husband and I then moved when I met Kevin. He also became vegetarian, and we dated in our teens, and then after we were married, pretty young, uh, I got a jazz grant, and part of the money that I got from the jazz grant I used to move to the San Francisco Bay Area. And so we moved there, and there I got a lot more into the deeper elements of yoga. I started reading pretty voraciously. The bookstores in Berkeley were fantastic, and so I went at it there. And then we heard that one of my favorite writers and teachers, Eknath Easwaran, spoke regularly in Petaluma, and we became involved with Eknath Easwaran's teachings and working there at the ashram, and eventually moved there for a bit and stayed there for a couple of years. That's back in the 80s, and then so I came into meditation there, and they taught no asana at his ashram at all. It was all it was all forming your life around meditation. And then and that was, I will always consider Eknath Easwaran to be my primary teacher. And as far as healing is concerned, the process that he teaches is remarkable in that it's these fundamentals of how to build a life around meditation rather than trying to stuff meditation into your life. And really then, my course changed because first baby, very crunchy mama type person with my, first baby was a home birth, and we tried to make all of her food and do all of the things in a time when not a lot, it was a little hard to find comrades in that. So,
Sure.
and that we had moved back to Missouri at that point. We went back to be with grandparents, and so it was a challenge being so we found little homeschool groups and other people of like mind, and and worked with all the factors, all the helping kids um, grow in a nurturing environment like that, but also working in the herbal components and learning more about Ayurveda and working with all the kids in the little homeschool group in that way. So that was fundamentals. Then my study actually began prior to that. My study began prior to Emily's birth.
Yeah, you can talk about your studies because I know you've studied in a lot of different styles, a lot of different methods, and it's sort of because I don't know exactly what you've studied just yet, just from your bio because we haven't met. But I joke kind of at my studio that I have a hodgepodge of background and I've studied a lot of different things where some people study straight Iyengar yoga or Vini yoga. And I was blessed in being able to study all kinds of different things, which has formed what I do. And it seems like just from what I know about you, that's also been something you have a variety of background.
I am a mutt. I am.
I like that.
I truly am. I think that from every tradition in which I've studied, there are gems, and so I try to offer the gems of the traditions, so that it's for me it's like cutting to the chase. You go in, you say, okay, this tradition. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to really focus on this, and um, you know, you there may be some criticism of not doing only one of the schools, but um, I think that people gain from that understanding of there are common factors in all of these practices, all of these traditions, and those common factors are just expressed differently, or we use different movement tools or breath tools in order to affect a certain change. And I studied primarily Iyengar tradition initially, and with some of the senior teachers, George Purvis, John Schumacher, Gabriel Halpern, and several other senior Iyengar teachers, and uh, and at that time too, I encountered the Phoenix Rising tradition, the Phoenix Rising schools, and found so much of their teaching to be excellent, especially in the psychological end of yoga explorations. So, and I liked the idea of fusing modern medicine and yoga, and the tradition of yoga, the ancient traditions, because as we keep finding out more and more, that that's the valid, this is valid stuff. What we used to say, oh well, this is woo woo material. Now we keep getting more and more science to back up what the ancients knew way back when. And um, I taught, I studied and taught Ashtanga yoga, studied and taught Kundalini yoga. I studied Anusara with John Friend, and uh, then I got back into um, the more uh, the therapeutic end. I was looking for another word there, but the therapeutic end of yoga through the Desikachar lineage with Gary Pressau and Paul Alex, and then I ended up a couple of years ago living at the Himalayan Institute and studying the Sri Vidya tradition, which again has a lot of beauty and goodness in it, and now I'm working for Yoga International a good deal of the time and writing, and it's I'm doing a lot of private work and work through clinics a bit, and so it's been a journey.
What led you back into the therapeutic side? What was calling you?
Um, my looking at my students, at some point along the way, it was like teaching poses doesn't work. Teaching people is what works.
Yes, yes, I love how you're putting that. It's true, and that's what ended up leading me to study the yoga as a therapy, because I was somehow with my foundational training, which was really great. I had studied originally with Cindy Lee, and so when I came back from studying back to Indianapolis, I realized, wow, by the use of props, alignment, I'm helping people find a pose and help, them, fit the pose to their body and kind of vice versa, and make them feel like they can do something. Where oftentimes, if you're not using alignment or props, that's not the only way, because I've studied lots of other styles too, and I, just like you, I appreciate there are gems. I like how you put that in every style. But I found that, there was something more, and then everybody came in with all kinds of different things. And so I was like, I want to learn more. And I would have never thought I would have found and been exposed to such a wide array of uses of yogic practices. And just like you, I'm a firm believer in the integration of Western medical model and Eastern practices. And I think that integration is really helpful. So it's not, never dismissive of the medical model or anything like that. There's lots of integration that can be helpful and appropriate. And so it's kind of fun. No wonder I really enjoyed following you, because it sounds like we have some similarities too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, great. So tell me, I want to dive into your expertise. And, we talked about the book that you have out there, the Yoga for Fear.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the core of what you're really loving right now and passionate about. So tell me about yoga practices, helpful working with fear, why you wrote this book, and, what's going on? Like, what do you want to share?
Yeah. The title is lengthy, and the publisher worked it over a lot, but it expresses really what the book is about. I wanted to look at those components of fear, especially that disable us. I mean, yoga says that at the root of all impediment on our course, that fear is baseline. Honestly, they would say Abnivesha. They would say it would be the fear of death. It is at the root of our moving forward, whether it's becoming healthier or whether it's finding our ultimate path in life. And so breaking it down to looking at it Ayurvedically, that if our constitution is air dosha, air and wind dosha, if we're Vedic, our tendency is going to be toward fear manifesting as anxiety. And if our tendency is if our constitution is fiery, we'll tend to rage, we'll blame when we're in a state of fear. And when if our tendency is toward Kaphic, where we're more earth, water element, that it's going to manifest in depressive states. And so the uh, the intention behind the book is one thing, being a little bit more compassionate with our fear. We recognize that and other people's fear. If we understand that someone who's raging at us is coming from a place of fear, it changes it clicks that switch in our brains so that we're able to say, okay, fearful. What can I do to help? The main underlying thread is that that honestly, you can address all three of those manifestations of fear with vagus nerve practices, and that's a lot what the book's about. I mean, there are other pieces of it too. Certainly, we address the nervous system in other ways, but the connection with practices that do stimulate parasympathetic response are going to be helpful in all, what we would say, in a tridoshic way, in all constitutions. We do break it down to some that I do break it down to some in the book that are a little bit more, these are more to calm anger. These are more to to embolden someone out of a depression state, or this is more to help whittle away that that anxiety. So that's what I've written about. Lots of practices and pictures, and all the people in my book are family and friends. But it's been a that's what the book is mainly about.
I think it's great. I work a lot with clients with chronic pain and trauma. So fear comes up and, of course, manifests in all those different ways. Um, and it's especially come up lately with a lot of clients. I've started a small group yoga therapy program at the studio, and there's a lot of fear related to traumatic experiences, and I've seen that in my private clients. And I think all of these strategies that you have in your book and you're mentioning are helpful. And in fact, while you were talking, I'm like, I'm going to carry this book at my studio. So, because I think it'll be great to recommend to private clients and, or, if someone's browsing or whatever, because then there's some things they can practice at home. Because everyone can probably relate to experiencing those manifestations of fear. And the way that you put them was wonderful, and introducing some of the Ayurvedic stuff. And because a lot of times, we're just popping a pill or things like that because we don't have any other tools and strategies to deal with these things. And I'm so glad that you created the book and are sharing all of these, because I think it's so essential. So I really appreciate your work in this world and writing, sharing, all of that. So thank you, Beth.
Thank you so much, Alyssa.
What are some strategies our listeners could implement now to work with fear or anxiety, or any of those manifestations of fear you talked about? We're going to link in the show notes to your book, of course. And and maybe to some other things related to your work out there, like your website and stuff. But what are some strategies our listeners could implement to work that you'd be willing to share right now?
Yeah. Some of them are super simple and they can do them in their car. For instance, working toward a 6 count in breath, 6 count out breath with no pause. Is one of the ones that has had a lot of research done about addressing depression, for instance. That inhale, it's like they breathe in Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, Om 5, Om 6, exhale, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, Om 5, Om 6. It may seem long initially, so what they can do is start with a 3 count and gradually expand it. But it seems the mind gets agitated in those pauses in the breath. In later stage practice, after people have been doing yoga for quite a while, doing a lot of breathing practices, breath retention might be a good thing. For the most part, the brain tends to go into a spin, or in those pauses is when we'll pick up the worry thread, or the trigger it gets a chance to come in. Another simple breath practice that can be used, and that would be really a great one for lowering anxiety, and they've said hormone levels will change. Your happy hormones, your serotonin and your dopamine, those those stabilizer hormones will increase. And they'll say a 15 count exhale, which sounds huge unless you're humming. And so using Brahmari, inhaling through the nose and then humming out long and low, and letting that lots of times I'll work with placement of where we're able to feel the vibration of that Brahmari, that long hum breath out. And localize it in the chest for a while, localize it in the throat for a while, see if you can feel it more in the head. Sometimes it might sound like a mosquito when you up there in the high register, but it's a way of lengthening your exhalation, and it has an impact on nervous system and hormone levels. So those are simple, easy ones that would be good here on the podcast. If people are working in trauma, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to do a lot of introspection on it, or a lot of mind spin. A lot of times it's very helpful just to work in coordination of the body, and just do I teach a lot of cross-patterning exercises where one side of the body is doing one thing and one side is doing the other. You might try, if you're just sitting somewhere, twirling one finger forward and the other finger back. So one finger's moving toward you in a circle and the other finger's moving back. Or doing figure 8 patterns with the arms, and switching directions so that the figure 8s are going in different directions. Things like this help. Now, this is not Vegas specific. This would be more activating connection between hemispheres of the brain, and this is proven to be helpful with everything from learning disability to Alzheimer's. If people can get the brain tracking both hemispheres, it's going to be, if they're going to, if left side of your body is connected to right side of your brain, vice versa. And if we can play with those coordination exercises, cross patterning, or even just crossing midline in the body by something like, oh, place your right hand on your left ear and your left hand on your right ear, or on either side of your face. Those types of movements help with that coordination. And yoga's known about it for a long, long time. I mean, we've talked about swara, or that uh, balance, that the nostril balance, how we feel that balance in the nostrils, and that's a good indicator of whether both hemispheres of your brain are activated, or really working in a complementary way. So uh, those are some little tips.
I appreciate that. I think those are all great things that people can implement really easily, even in their car, like you said, or at home. And, while they're waiting to order your book, because I know everyone who listens is going to now want to, especially because, like I said, my listeners, a lot of them have experienced fear or are experiencing that now. And they're seeking out this podcast because they're dealing with, maybe it's a traumatic event in their life, or the after effects of that. Of course, not everyone's experiencing trauma, but different fears for different reasons. And the whole reason I created this podcast was to help educate people. So we've not just in yoga as a therapy and the different practices and things like that, but other holistic practices too, mind body interventions. And so, my mission in life is to help people with these complementary modalities and different things that you can do at home. So I appreciate you sharing some of those simple strategies and practices. I think it's really helpful. And that cross patterning, we use that. I spent 3 years on a research study with veterans with chronic pain and PTSD. And we used a lot of cross patterning, and of course pranayama too, and other movements. But that is really helpful. I remember being like, something so simple can be so profound. Everybody thinks we have to do handstands and arm balances. And it's like, no, something so simple can change the brain and integrate everything. So I appreciate you sharing those. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I'm just at this point, I can say that they've asked me to write another book, and if people wanted to be in contact and let me know thoughts they'd like for me to cover in a new piece. And I'm going to continue. I've got some new articles coming out on Yoga International, and so those are going to be articles and some videos coming out.
Yep, and we'll be sure to link to your website and Yoga International and everything. And of course, like I said, link to your book on Amazon to purchase, and everything we've mentioned here. We'll do that in the show notes. So I appreciate you being my guest today, and I'm looking forward to another book if that comes out.
I'm considering just doing all techniques, mainly with just some description of why this is helpful. So that's a thought.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are very helpful. And then, and depending, whether you're going to do that for the general public or for more teachers or kind of for both, either way, it's just helpful. Sharing your knowledge, it's really appreciated, probably even sometimes more than you realize. So I certainly appreciate it. And I really appreciate you being here on the podcast today. I know my listeners will value your story, learning more about what you do, your knowledge, how yoga can help with fear, anxiety, and rage. So I really do appreciate you being on here, Beth.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alyssa. I hope we get a chance to meet live and in person sometime.
Yes, for sure. And for everyone out there, just a reminder, this episode is sponsored by Embark Yoga and Holistic Health. It's an urban sanctuary in the heart of Indianapolis, offering yoga classes, massage therapy, and holistic practices rooted in connecting the innate wisdom of the body with the mind to help you find true healing. Through dynamic movement, deep relaxation, natural remedies, and holistic self-care, Embark's team of wellness professionals can help you maintain health as you age, stay sane while managing stress, and feel good every day of your life. Go to embarkyoga.com to learn more. And one final thing, are you subscribed to my podcast? If you're not, I encourage you to do so today so you're the first to hear when the next one is live every Thursday. Take a few seconds, hit the subscribe button on your phone now, or go to alysaphennig.com/podcast and make sure you get on the email list to get notified when a new episode is available. I can't wait to see you again next week. Same time, same place. Wild blessings.